What if everything you needed to fight pain and inflammation was already written down thousands of years ago? Not in a medical journal, not in a pharmacy database, in the Bible. Most people are shocked to discover that foods mentioned specifically in Scripture are now being studied in clinical trials for their ability to reduce inflammation at the cellular level. And some of them are outperforming over-the-counter painkillers in head-to-head research. These aren't theories. These are published studies. And the foods are ones your biblical ancestors ate every single day without thinking twice. Stay with me because number 7 on this list contains the exact same active mechanism as ibuprofen, and a recent clinical trial proved it. And number 10 has researchers at major medical institutions running cancer trials on it right now. They're calling its active compounds some of the most promising natural anti-inflammatory molecules ever studied. If you want ancient wisdom backed by modern science, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell right now. Let's get into it. Number 1. Olive oil. The Bible mentions olive oil more than 140 times. It was poured on wounds, used in sacred rituals, and consumed at every meal across the ancient Middle East. The Good Samaritan in Luke chapter 10 poured it directly into open wounds. That wasn't symbolic. That was medicine. In 2005, a study published in the journal Nature revealed something remarkable. Olive oil contains a compound called oleocanthal that inhibits COX-1 and COX-2. The exact same inflammatory enzymes that ibuprofen blocks. Same pathway, same mechanism, without the stomach damage that comes with long-term painkiller use. Hundreds of clinical trials link daily olive oil consumption to measurably lower levels of CRP, interleukin-6, and TNF-alpha. Those are the primary markers doctors use to measure inflammation in the blood. The ancient world didn't know the science. They just knew people who used olive oil generously healed faster and lived longer. Modern research has confirmed what they already practiced for thousands of years. Pour cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil generously over your food every single day. Use it raw to preserve the active compounds. Quality matters more than almost anything else here. The refined version on most grocery shelves is not the same substance and will not give you the same results. Number 2. Ginger. Ginger traveled the ancient spice routes connecting the biblical world to Persia and India. It was documented in medical use by 1000 BC, and virtually every traditional healing system in the ancient world valued it highly. Here is what makes it clinically remarkable. Most anti-inflammatory drugs block one pathway. Ginger blocks 2. It inhibits COX-2 like ibuprofen and also suppresses a completely separate enzyme called 5-lipoxygenase that standard painkillers don't even reach. That dual action is why a published clinical trial found ginger produced comparable pain relief to ibuprofen in osteoarthritis patients with a significantly better side effect profile. A separate study showed it reduces post-exercise muscle pain by 25%. The ancient world used ginger daily in cooking and teas. They were getting consistent therapeutic doses without ever measuring a milligram. That daily consistency is the secret most people miss. Grate fresh ginger into hot water with raw honey every morning as a simple anti-inflammatory tea. Add it generously to your cooking throughout the day. Fresh root is more potent than powder, so prioritize it whenever possible. Number 3. Turmeric. Ancient Assyrian medical texts documented turmeric around 600 BC. It traveled the same trade routes that supplied the biblical world with spices and medicines. Today, it has over 3,000 published clinical studies behind it. Its active compound curcumin targets NF-κB, the master control switch that activates dozens of inflammatory pathways simultaneously throughout the body. When that switch is suppressed, inflammation quiets down systemically. A randomized controlled trial tested curcumin directly against ibuprofen in knee pain patients. Equal pain reduction. Fewer side effects with curcumin. The one thing you must know about turmeric is that curcumin absorbs very poorly on its own. The ancient world solved this instinctively by combining turmeric with black pepper and fat. Black pepper increases curcumin absorption by 2,000%. They didn't know the biochemistry. They knew it worked better that way. Always cook turmeric with black pepper and a fat source like olive oil or coconut oil. Stir it into warm milk or tea daily. Mix it with raw honey into a paste and apply it directly to painful joints. Use it every day without exception. Number 4. Pomegranate. When Solomon built the temple in Jerusalem, he had 200 pomegranates carved into its pillars. In the ancient world, you didn't build sacred structures around things that were merely decorative. You built them around things that sustained life. Pomegranate contains a compound called punicalagin, found almost nowhere else in nature. When metabolized, it produces molecules with powerful anti-inflammatory effects. Clinical trials measuring CRP levels in participants drinking pomegranate juice daily for 12 weeks recorded reductions of 30 to 35%. It also inhibits the enzymes that degrade cartilage in joints, making it especially valuable for people dealing with arthritis and chronic joint pain. Here's what most people get wrong. The rind that everyone throws away has the highest concentration of medicinal compounds in the entire fruit. Traditional Middle Eastern healers steeped it as tea for inflammatory conditions for centuries. They were using the most potent part while we discard it without thinking. Eat the fresh seeds daily. Drink cold-pressed juice without added sugar. Dry the rind and steep it in hot water as a concentrated anti-inflammatory tea. Do not throw that rind away. Number 5. Figs. In 2 Kings chapter 20, King Hezekiah is dying from a severe infected wound. The prophet Isaiah doesn't just pray over him. He gives a specific medical instruction. Press a poultice of figs directly onto the wound. Hezekiah recovered. For centuries, people read that as a miracle with a curious food detail. Then researchers examined the biochemistry of figs and found the detail was clinically grounded. Fresh figs contain phycin, a proteolytic enzyme that breaks down dead and infected tissue. They contain antimicrobial compounds that inhibit bacterial growth and flavonoids that suppress inflammatory cytokines at wound sites. Isaiah's prescription was pharmacologically sound. Beyond wound healing, figs are extraordinarily rich in pectin fiber that feeds beneficial gut bacteria. And gut health is increasingly understood to be central to whole body inflammation levels. A healthy gut microbiome produces anti-inflammatory compounds that circulate throughout the entire body. Eat fresh figs at peak ripeness when they're in season. Keep dried figs year-round as a mineral-rich daily food. And if you have inflamed or irritated skin, mash a fresh fig and apply it directly. It worked for a king, and the science explains why. Before we get into the second half, I want to hear from you right now. Drop a comment below and tell me which food has surprised you the most so far. Is it the olive oil study published in Nature? The ginger trial that matched ibuprofen? The fig poultice that healed a king? Let me know, because the next 5 foods are going to surprise you even more. Let us keep going. Number 6. Garlic. Numbers chapter 11. The Israelites are wandering in the wilderness, surviving on manna alone, and they break down completely. Scripture is specific about what they are grieving, and garlic is on the list. They missed it so desperately they wished themselves back into slavery in Egypt just to have it again. Once you understand what garlic does inside the body, that response stops sounding dramatic and starts making complete physiological sense. When garlic is crushed, it produces allicin, one of the most bioactive natural compounds known to science. Allicin suppresses TNF-alpha and interleukin-1 beta, 2 primary molecular drivers of inflammatory pain. It inhibits NF-κB, the master inflammation switch, and it kills the bacteria and viruses that trigger inflammatory responses in the first place. A 2018 meta-analysis of multiple clinical trials confirmed significant reductions in CRP, TNF-alpha, and IL-6 with regular garlic consumption. The most important thing to know is that heat destroys allicin. Crush or mince your garlic. Let it rest for 10 minutes so the enzymatic conversion completes. Then eat it raw. Mix it into dressings with olive oil. That combination gives you 2 of the most powerful natural anti-inflammatory foods on this list working together in a single bite. Eat it daily, just like the biblical world did. Number 7. Hyssop. Hyssop appears throughout Scripture in purification rituals, in Psalm 51, and at the crucifixion where a sponge is lifted to Jesus on a hyssop branch. For generations, this seemed purely ceremonial. Then biochemists analyzed the plant and found the ceremony was built on real pharmacology. Hyssop contains carvacrol and thymol, the same compounds found in oregano and thyme. Carvacrol directly inhibits COX-2, the exact enzyme ibuprofen targets. It also suppresses prostaglandin E2, the molecular signal that makes your nerve endings sensitive to pain. When that signal is suppressed, you feel less pain, not because inflammation is masked, but because the signal creating the pain experience is being turned down at its source. Thymol independently suppresses NF-κB and shows measurable pain-reducing effects in published research. The purification rituals of the ancient world were applying a genuine antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory agent. Ancient theology and ancient pharmacology were not separate categories. They were the same category. Steep fresh or dried hyssop in hot water and drink it as a tea for joint pain and respiratory inflammation. Apply a hyssop tincture directly to painful areas. Use the fresh herb in cooking the way you would thyme or oregano every single day. Number 8. Grapes. The vine runs through Scripture from beginning to end. Noah plants one after the flood. Jesus calls himself the true vine. Grapes were not occasional fruit. They were the daily life of entire civilizations. And the ancient world ate them in a way that modern consumption does not. They ate the whole fruit. Skin, seeds, and flesh together. The skin contains resveratrol, which activates proteins that suppress NF-κB and reduce systemic inflammation. Multiple clinical trials confirm significant reductions in CRP and TNF-alpha with regular resveratrol consumption. The seeds contain OPCs, oligomeric proanthocyanidins, with antioxidant capacity up to 50 times stronger than vitamin E. They show measurable clinical reductions in inflammatory markers, particularly after physical stress on the body. The ancient world also used grape leaves as food wrappers, and the leaves themselves have documented anti-inflammatory properties used in traditional Mediterranean medicine for centuries. Eat whole fresh grapes with the skin on, and resist the urge to avoid the seeds. Keep raisins as a daily food. Consider grape seed extract as a targeted anti-inflammatory supplement. And explore grape leaves in your cooking. The whole plant was medicine, not just the fruit. Number 9. Almonds. When God gave Moses the design for the menorah, he specified the cups should be shaped like almond blossoms. When Aaron's rod was chosen as a sign of divine selection, it miraculously produced almonds overnight. The almond was chosen repeatedly in Scripture to represent watchfulness and divine initiative. It is the first tree to bloom in late winter, while everything else is still dormant. And the nutritional science suggests it deserved that honor. Almonds are one of the richest food sources of vitamin E. 1 ounce provides 37% of your daily requirement. Vitamin E concentrates inside cell membranes and protects them from the oxidative damage that triggers the inflammatory cascade before it begins. Clinical trials confirm vitamin E reduces CRP and IL-6 measurably. Almonds are also exceptional sources of magnesium. Magnesium deficiency is now estimated to affect the majority of the modern population and is directly linked to elevated inflammatory markers and increased pain sensitivity throughout the nervous system. Correcting it with food measurably reduces pain signals over time. Eat a daily handful of raw almonds every single day without exception. Think of it as a daily supplement that happens to be food. Apply almond oil topically to inflamed joints. Choose whole raw almonds over processed almond products whenever possible. Number 10. Frankincense. And here we are at number 10. Save for last, because frankincense has a story that begins in the most sacred places in Scripture and ends in active clinical cancer trials at major medical institutions today. Frankincense is the resin of the boswellia tree. It was burned daily in the tabernacle and the temple of Jerusalem. It was one of the 3 gifts brought to the infant Jesus by the Magi. Ancient texts describe it as among the most prized substances on earth, and modern medicine mostly dismissed it as religious ritual, until pharmacologists isolated its active compound AKBA and found something that genuinely surprised them. AKBA specifically inhibits 5-lipoxygenase, the enzyme that produces leukotrienes, a powerful class of inflammatory molecules. And here is what makes this extraordinary. Ibuprofen does not touch this pathway at all. Standard painkillers completely miss it. Boswellia reaches the arm of the inflammatory cascade that conventional medicine leaves wide open. Multiple randomized controlled trials confirm boswellia extract significantly reduces pain and improves physical function in osteoarthritis patients. One trial found it outperformed placebo on every primary pain outcome within just 7 days. Studies in patients with rheumatoid arthritis, inflammatory bowel disease, and asthma all show measurable clinical improvement. And then the laboratory data on cancer cells caught the attention of oncologists. Boswellic acids have shown in cell and animal studies the ability to trigger programmed cell death in cancer cells across multiple cancer types, including brain tumors, breast cancer, and colon cancer through pathways that cancer cells depend on, but normal cells do not. Clinical trials in cancer patients are actively underway right now at major research institutions. The ancient world burned this resin daily, used it medicinally, and called it a gift of God. Researchers studying what its active compounds do to inflammatory pathways and cancer cell signaling are finding that description increasingly difficult to dismiss. Look for Boswellia extracts standardized to AKBA content as a supplement. Apply frankincense resin dissolved in oil directly to inflamed joints. The most medicinally concentrated form is the extract, but the traditional preparations have thousands of years of results behind them. 10 foods, thousands of years of use. And one by one modern clinical research keeps confirming what the ancient world already lived by. Olive oil works like ibuprofen. Ginger blocks 2 pain pathways simultaneously. Turmeric targets the master switch controlling dozens of inflammatory processes. Hyssop suppresses the exact same enzyme as prescription painkillers. Frankincense reaches the inflammatory pathway they all miss. The book was right. It just didn't need to explain the mechanism. The healing was always the point. Pick one food from this list that you are not currently eating and add it to your life today. Not occasionally. Daily. The ancient world didn't use these as treatments they reached for when pain got unbearable. These were daily foods. Daily protection built into every meal. Drop a comment and tell me which food surprised you most. Was it hyssop? Frankincense? The fig poultice that healed a king? I read every single comment, and I will see you in the next one. If you are not yet subscribed to Nature's Garden Vault, hit that button and ring the bell. See you in the next one.